Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And newbies, welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, Tory Lanez's dad, Sunstar, has a request for the people. He said has forgiven Megan Thee Stallion, he and his family, and they have a long time ago. Take a listen and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a bit lengthy, y'all, so grab a snack while you listen and hit that notification bell so you'll see when I drop new videos. FYI, the ending is not me, y'all. It's the way Instagram ended his live. Drop down in the comment box at the end. I want to know y'all thoughts on what Sunstar had to say. With that being said, here we go.
Um, so tonight, I want to take the time to paint you a different picture, because there are those who felt that it was important to paint my son, Daystar Peterson, aka the artist Tory Lanez, with a particular brush and to hold him up in a particular light to make people think that he is a monster, that he is this really, really terrible person that did a really, really terrible thing. When I look at the fact that these people were willing to go to no length to make sure that story is told and told and told and told, it makes you question why. You see, I was the first person that he called when he was able to call on the phone to say something about the situation that had happened back then. I must say this to you, however, before I get started. It is not my intention tonight to go into merits of the ongoing trial. Thank you. He is, in fact, innocent. God bless you for stating that, and all of you who have stated and continue to state that my son should, in fact, be free. So I am not going to get into speaking about a case that is not over, although many would like to think that it is or would hope that it is. So I'm not going to get into speaking about the merits of a case, about the legal realities of it. They are experts in that field who are standing up to address it now. And so I will allow them to do what they do best. And I will do what I know that God has gifted me to do best. And that's number one, to tell the truth. That's number one. That's number two, to be a voice for truth. You see, truth is not a philosophy, people. Truth is not an ideology. Truth is not a religion. It's not a doctrine. I have been a servant of God for years. My children grew up as they saw us go from sometimes city to city, nation to nation. We lived in a lot of different places. And on one hand, that really gave us an international perspective of the world and what it's really all about. And so there are some things that I do want to say, and I would ask that you can help me to get it out as far and wide as it is possible to get it out. I pray that those of you who showed up for Live at 7 to find that my page had gone dark, was just a black screen there, that I pray that you return. Thank you again for those of you who actually reached out. I've had a couple of calls, some messages, and people are saying, hey, how can we help you to do this? How can we help you to do that? Can we get you on station head, etc., etc. And I appreciate all of that. I'm not coming tonight with vengeance in my heart. I'm not coming to try to tear people down. I'm not trying to render evil for evil. As the word of God that I have taught and lived or sought to live for years have told me to love even my enemies. It's not easy sometimes, I can tell you that. But I have sought to walk the love walk, and I've taught my children to do the same. One thing I do know for sure is that I never hold anyone in my heart in unforgiveness, because I've learned that unforgiveness is like pouring acid into a container. If you pour acid into a container, it will first affect the container before it affects anything outside of the container. So I do not ever allow people and what they have to say to be either the standard by which I determine anything in this life. I would rather forgive people so that I can have a clear heart, that I'm able to hear God. I've been told that if I were to go live tonight, there are those who will take my words and spin them for whatever they want to make it say. However, I've also learned not to fear men, but only to fear Almighty God. You see, Jesus said this one day. He said, "Do not fear those who can kill the body, but rather fear him who, after the body has been killed, can also destroy the soul in hellfire." So I've learned over the years not to fear men. Now, we are living in a time of the internet. We're living in a time of social media. And it is so sad to see social media becoming a place that is so full of toxicity. People, internet trolls, who don't like to see the beauty of a life unfold. You know, they're like moles. Digging up dirt on people is to them like though it was gold. And that's the world we live in right now. I think that we have the power to change the narrative. Because one thing that the evil empire fears more than anything, they fear masses of people thinking for themselves. That's what they fear. That's their biggest fear. You know, we live in a world where the powers that be tell us that we should walk around with these blindfolds on. They want us to be walking around with blindfolds, and we are to depend on them to be the only one that can lead us or direct us where we should go. And they never want us to remove the blindfolds, because they fear that if we remove the blindfolds, not only will we realize that we can see, but they fear that we will realize that the people who are leading us around are actually the ones that are blind. And their continued existence depends on us never knowing that they really are the ones that are blind. Do not think that because you have money or because you are in politics, that makes the light automatic to you. It does not. So let me start here. Let me go back to the day of the verdict at the courthouse, because I left that courthouse and the cameras were there. I did not come out saying, "Oh, I'm about to say something and this would be a good moment to make a statement so that what I'm going to say will go viral." That was never the issue at all. I came out because I had sat for 2.5 years seeing an injustice being perpetrated against an innocent man. There are those who would say, "Oh, well, that's your son. You will believe anything." Truth be that before I had children, I was sworn to serve the kingdom of heaven. I am an ambassador of that kingdom. So people can say whatever they want. After this message today, there are those who will applaud. There are those who will disapprove. And there are those who will downright try to make it say what they want it to say, because they so fear the truth coming out. So that day I left the courthouse. So let me start there. Like I said, I left the courthouse, and as I left, responded in a way that some would say, oh, he was so emotional. It was just an emotional father. Listen to me. I fought many battles in my life, and I fought battles for people who were not even my children. I've been a voice for the voiceless for a long time. Some of you may not know this, and that's why I'm introducing myself, that you may know who is standing in front of you right now. All right? So, I spoke up because I'm not someone who have been conditioned over the years to fear the ramifications of evil people. I fear God. I fear God. And at the end of the day, anyone who could ever seek to shut my mouth or stop me from speaking the truth to the point of trying to extinguish my flame, guess what? The only thing you can do is give me a one-way ticket to heaven. You can't do anything to me. You can't do anything to me. So that day, it was not merely an emotional outburst. I saw an evil system. I sat in a courthouse and I watched how evidence was literally obscured, blocked, barred. Everything and anything that was actual evidence that could speak to my son's innocence. I saw people go above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that it never came in to view. And now here we are. And it's interesting because I'm seeing that the people are really not as stupid as many would like to think that they are. Because I've seen that people have actually looked at all of it and say, nah, something's wrong. Something is really, really wrong here. And we're just not buying it. So as soon as certain folks saw that the narrative was not going in the direction that they wanted it to go, as soon as they saw that, in fact, it was not how they thought it was supposed to have thrust certain people further into the stratosphere of superstardom while using my son as a sacrificial lamb to make that happen, because that's been the narrative for 2.5 years. That's been the narrative. And as soon as they saw that it was not going that way, that in fact his numbers were rising while certain other people's numbers were falling, they began to dump onto the internet from the attorney's office, from the district attorney's office. They began to dump things that were supposed to have been evidence in a trial as though the guilty verdict was not enough. Then you had persons like this lady, what's her name? This journalist, Megan Cuniff. This woman actually went on and said that she saw my wife and I giving transcripts or leaking information to certain journalists to put out on the internet. Wait. Stop for a second. Number one, why would the district attorney's office give us things to put out on the internet to make my son look even worse? Hence, I'm talking about the interview with Kelsey. Why? That makes no sense. So I had to realize that this woman was saying things for the sake of clout. Moving right along, here we are today. Long time ago, I made a decision before God. I said, God, if I ever sin or mess up in private, I will come before you and I will repent. I will ask forgiveness in private. But as a leader, if I mess up publicly, then I will go to the people before whom I've messed up and I will ask them to forgive me publicly. That's been my stance. So that's why I'm even going back to the day on the courthouse steps. Because many of you were led to believe that it was an emotional outburst on my part. It really was not merely an emotional outburst. You would have to know my history. You'd have to know how God has used me in nations around the world, you would have to know that there are times when I've stood up with great boldness to speak on behalf of those who were marginalized, those who did not have a voice, to speak on behalf of those who people did not want to be able to have a voice, to publish their pain and the things that were going on with them. And so that's been an issue for some time. So you can chalk that one up to the burden of leadership. But I want to ask a real serious question. What do you do when you see injustice happening, when it is so blatant and so plain before you? What do you do? Do you just sit back and fear the powers that be and say nothing? Is that the response that we are expected to have in the midst of injustice? For me, I remember what the scriptures say. Number one, woe to you when all men speak good of you. You see, when everybody is speaking wonderful of you, somewhere along the line, you're compromising, because not everybody loves the truth. And if you are just, everybody is speaking wonderfully of you, it means you're not telling the truth somewhere or the other. So I don't fear when people begin to be concerned that I speak or say what is right, even though it can cost. I want to tell you all something. We have been conditioned in life to always take the path of least resistance, because we don't like discomfort. We don't want discomfort. We fear anything that makes us uncomfortable. But we don't realize that sometimes discomfort is a part of the process. Discomfort is a part of the process. A diamond never becomes a diamond just by not going through discomfort, if you will. Diamonds are formed 240 miles below the Earth's, I forget what you call that crust below the surface. And it is processed by heat and by pressure. The heat there is over 3,000 degrees. And 50 millibars of pressure. They said if you want to understand that, then imagine the weight of 2,000 grown men standing on your foot. That's the kind of pressure that it takes to form a diamond from what? Just what we would consider coal, carbons, coal. So sometimes in life, if you are going to be everything that you can possibly be, if the beauty that is on the inside of the creativity that's in you is going to come out, sometimes you're going to go through fire. You're going to go through pressure. Don't fear it. Don't fear it. Don't let people make you fear that. So let me go back to some 2.5 plus years ago. When all of this stuff happened, a lawyer entered into the picture, a man by the name of Alex Spiro. He is a former DA in New York. He used to be the NBA's spin doctor. He was their go-to guy for NBA ball players. And then he went into private practice or became a part of a firm. And this man has been on the record. It's not something I'm making up. It's already out there on the internet years ago. He said, when I'm going to try a case of a high-profile case, I first try it in the court of public opinion. And so that's what they did. The strategy was basically to paint a smear campaign against a young man, an artist, to try to make him feel, or try to make the public believe that he is the worst person that's ever walked on the planet. How could he be so terrible to shoot a black woman and all of that? Some of the people who piled on, some of them, when they say a black woman, they sound so insincere because they never cared about black women before that. But all of a sudden, this became a good narrative. It boosted views. It gave more likes. It sounded really, really wonderful. And, you know, for them to be on the side of this defenseless black woman. Let me stop right here and say this, and this might come as a shock to many of you. But guess what? Both my son myself and others of our family have long decided that we are not going to hold any animosity against Megan Pete, aka Megan the Stallion. We forgave that girl long time ago, because again, we know that the principle of forgiveness is important in order to cleanse one's heart, to cleanse one's soul, and to not be, bound up with hatred and hatred, trust me, resentment, bitterness, those things can actually cause diseases of the bones. It has been proven, and it can cause sickness in your body because you're holding on to something that is negative against the real life force in your life. So whatever you do in life, no matter how hard it is, forgive, because forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. It's for you. And so that's what we decided. Some will actually, no doubt, question, is he actually saying that Tory forgave Megan for all of what's going on? Yes, we have forgiven her. But what we will not back down from is the machine that has been in the background trying to press a narrative in order to use this girl for what they have used her for. So let's move on from there. They came in with a smear campaign that was second to none. Yes, it was during the time of the George Floyd situation, the Breonna Taylor situation. And they basically tried to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. That's not my saying. That's an old people's proverbs who says you cannot make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And reality check is that they were trying to make someone be an icon for civil rights who did not have any such desire, who did not have any such convictions about being that at all. And it came across very insincere to a lot of people. You see, the powers that be and those who actually have the power of the machine in their hands can make us think all day long that that was for real, but people saw right through that. And so a lot of that began to just fall on its face. The strategy was simply this. Number one, they went behind the door, closed doors, and got the powers that be to place a gag order on my son. He wasn't supposed to say anything. He wasn't supposed to say anything. Even to the place when he sought to use his art to speak for himself, because that was his only way. There were so many voices. Oh my God, how insensitive, blah, 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 blah. But I will have to ask you, what would you do in such a situation? At the end of the album called Daystar, the last song is called Life. And he ends that song by saying, you get up one day and you have thousands of people hating on you all at once. It brings your world down. I would like the youth of today to take me as an example, because I don't care about none of those things. I will continue to stand up, and I'm paraphrasing now, so let me leave that alone. So the strategy was very simple. Shut his mouth while the mouth of those with the biggest megaphone on planet Earth piled on and said everything. Can you imagine? 2.5 years, every single day, you have to get up to that, knowing that you did not do this. And so that was the face that they decided would best serve their narrative. Who really is Daystar Peterson, people? Who really is Daystar Peterson? 1 second, please. Who really is he? The fact is that he's one of the kindest individuals that you could ever meet in your life. The truth is that they don't want you to know is that he is someone who actually goes out of his way to help so many people. And I can tell you testimony upon testimony of things that he does and never says anything about it. Never lets anyone else know what he does in the background to help people. He will never tell you that. And there's one young lady who got in contact with me that was diagnosed as being bipolar, having a bipolar disorder, that he paid her rent. She told me, not him, because he would never say it. He paid her rent for 1 full year because she was a single mother battling through depression and situations going on in her life. He will never come and tell me what every security personnel that's ever worked for and with him has told me one by one, independent of each other. I've never worked with a celebrity like this. I've worked with others. Sometimes they make us stand outside as they go inside and have meals and do all this. He has never treated us like that. He's only ever treated us like family. But yet the world will try to make you think that this is the worst kind of human being, and it's not true. So I can't continue to sit here and just hear this over and over and over and over again and say nothing. Now my son is fighting for his life because of things that have been done in a terrible way. And they would have us to just do nothing, just say nothing. But today I'm asking you to help me to get the real story out. Because I did not realize in the beginning, when this media war started, what the end result of it would really be. I didn't realize what the strategy really was, and how there are those who felt it necessary to push this narrative and what they were pushing it for. And so here we are. But this is not just about Daystar. This is not just about him. It's really about the fact that these kinds of injustices have been happening for a long time, and they go in secret. Nothing is ever said. People are being destroyed. Families get torn apart. Oh yes, I know that there are real crimes in our society, and I don't condone any of it. I don't believe anybody should be victimized by anybody. I don't think that that's what God wants. He gave us a world that is so beautiful. If it's messed up, it's because we messed it up. So he never intended for us to be so inhumane one to another. I understand that that happens. And I understand that if we cannot have the law in our hearts, then it would many times take the law outside of us to keep us moving in the direction that brings some semblance of peace or harmony within a society. I understand all of those things. But I also understand that many people, their lives are being destroyed, ripped apart. And although we have some good people in the system, sometimes the system gets it totally wrong. We have innocence projects now that have been able to go back, and sometimes people have been in prison for God knows how long. And had it not been for somebody who took up their cause, they would still be there and they were innocent. So the system does not always get it right. Many times they get it very, very wrong. Has anybody ever told you that for the past 3-4 years, Daystar Peterson, aka Tory Lanez, has been on the board of Unite the People, which is a prison reform platform and initiative run by a very faithful and dedicated man, Caesar McDowell? Has anybody ever told you that he has been on that board for almost 4 years, and that he has many times used his own resources to ensure that people come out of prison that were wrongly incarcerated or unduly sentenced? supposedly prison is to be about rehabilitating people, but that's not been the point. That's not been the issue. So many people come out destroyed, broken, and if they don't have any system or support, not only will they never make it back into society, they will be destroyed for the rest of their lives, mentally, emotionally. Some people come out being greater criminals than when they went in, because an environment is created that is not meant to rehabilitate or make a human being better in any way. So tonight, I ain't come on here just to take up your time. I came here to let you know that my son is not what people want you to think he is. He's not what they want you to think he is. He's actually someone who is kind, he's compassionate, and there is no way, not just because I'm his father, you got to understand, for the last 40 years of my life, I've dealt with people all around the world, on at least 3 continents, several islands throughout the Caribbean. I have been involved in helping especially young people to be entrepreneurs, teach them life skills, entrepreneurial skills. I've seen people come from absolutely nothing till today. Their lives have meaning. They're actually doing things and helping other people in their lives. That's what my life has been all about. And that's what I passed on to my children. And so I want to say two things. In 1990, I went to my bed and I had a dream. And in that dream, I saw that I was driving in downtown, a city in Canada. And I was pulled over by the police in the vision, and they said, give us the manuscript on the destiny of the black race. Mind you, in the natural world, I had never even conceived of writing a manuscript like that, much less putting out a book. But that's what happened in the dream. They said, give us the manuscript on the destiny of the black race. I went to the trunk of my vehicle, took it out, walked it back to the squad car, and I handed it to the officer. And as I was handing it, I said to the man, I said in my mind, rather, I handed it to him, but in my mind I said, you can take this, but you can't take what's in my heart. And from then, long story short, I started to study, I started to research on what the plight of black people were. And as soon as I started that,